Welcome back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Red Wave 22 as we hope to bring Nevada back to our conservative roots, which is the reason why a lot of us moved here, isn't it? Really quick, we're brought to you by Infinity the Math Institute, where you don't get more math problems, you get solutions. Play a tape. All right, and also Infinity is going to have a summer camp from June 6th through June 30th, primarily for ages 9 through 14, where they're going to be learning everything from the Constitution, financial literacy, public speaking, which I know all of our kids need a little bit of that. There's going to be a math boot camp, games, movies, a whole bunch more, and I'm not supposed to tell anybody, but I'm going to be talking about the difference between capitalism, socialism, and communism, because nobody seems to really have a good grasp on especially the differences between communism and socialism. Also, please, I need you guys to subscribe, whether you watch it on YouTube or Rumble. Please hit that subscription button. I wouldn't mind if you did both. Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. Give us a rating. Tell a friend. Nobody's telling us on social media, so we're going to be counting on you guys to tell each other. Also, you can join us on Facebook, Common Sense Nevada, the Public Square, as well as the new CCSD Board of Trustees, as we try to reform our education system, because anything would work better than what we got going on right now. So, without further ado, we are super pleased to be joined by yet another gubernatorial candidate. He's the current mayor of Las Vegas, running for Nevada governor. It's Mr. John Lee. Welcome, John.
Thank you. It's actually North Las Vegas.
What did I say? Did I say Las Vegas?
Yeah, but
I saw our producer made a face, and I was like, oh, did I say something wrong?
No, you didn't say anything wrong. Las Vegas is a great place.
No offense, Carolyn Goodman, the mayor of Las Vegas. This is the mayor of North Las Vegas, John Lee. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure to have you. And you're running for governor. You want to run the whole kit and caboodle. You just came out, or actually about 6 months ago, you came out with a great ad. You want to play the tape? John Lee, running for governor.
They called it bad luck cancer, stage 4. They said I hit the end of the road, but instead, I made my own. I'm John Lee. Let's go for a ride. I started a business out of the back of my family station wagon and created hundreds of jobs. I was a plumber. You could say I've never been afraid to fix a disgusting mess. Speaking of, I ran for office, became mayor of North Las Vegas, and I pulled it out of deep debt and revitalized the city. Today, socialists control the Democratic Party I once knew. Sisolack strangled our economy and freedom. They're after our speech, guns, and kids. So, like Reagan and Trump, I switched parties. I've always made my own path. Socialism is a cancer, and if we don't fight back, it'll kill us. By the grace of God, I beat cancer, and together, as Republicans, we'll beat this too. Let's ride.
Well, there you go. And I mean, I see that, you know, all the political ads love the desert, but you're not in a big truck, you're on a bike. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, from switching parties. I love the line. I think that's a great saving line. Just like Reagan and Trump, I switched parties. Obviously, we're going to get deep into that later on. recovering from cancer, riding the bike through the desert. Tell us about the production of the video and what message, because I know a lot of thought and money go into these ads. What was the principal message that you wanted to exude?
Well, I'm a pretty good athlete, but my time is spent mostly on doing public service or working for the city or whatever. I've got a large family. I've got 30 grandchildren, 7 children, so I've got a lot of things. But riding a bicycle is something I really like to do. I've actually rode my road bike from in California at Lake Tahoe all the way across Nevada to Utah, 435 miles. And I rode that ride. I rode the Tahoe.
How long did that take you?
5 days.
Wow.
Usually about 100 miles a day is what you'll ride,
Right.
And then I rode the Tahoe Rim Trail. I've hiked around Lake Tahoe and the Tahoe Rim Trail. I rode my bike up Pikes Peak, 165 different turns to get to the top.
That's crazy.
14,000 feet.
That's beautiful.
So I really like a bicycle, Johnny. And so it gave me a chance to kind of, they say, well, what do you do? I said, I ride a bike. So that's what we started.
And do you ride your bike through your neighborhood and stuff like that?
No, we go a little faster than that.
You ever do a Pete Buttigieg and get driven to your office, and then once you get by City Hall, you jump on a bike and act like you're green?
No, I'm a pretty good cyclist. I don't brag about it, but I'm very good at it.
Well, good. And then also, the cancer thing. I mean, I didn't know about that. Stage 4 cancer. I mean, that's basically death. Basically a death sentence.
I was up at the legislature, and I thought I was living up in Lake Tahoe at the time during the legislative session, and I thought I was getting allergic to pine trees. Something was catching me.
You knew something was wrong.
Like this, yeah. I had massive headaches, and what was happening is there was a growth growing in my back of my spine here, and so it was expanding. Oh, I was taking, must be 15 or 20 ibuprofen a day. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought I was allergic to cats or trees or something. Finally, I went to a very good ENT, Russ Schroeder, and he looked at me and said, John, do you have a day timer? I said, yeah, I got a day timer. And I gave it to him. He goes, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to me. You've got stage 4 cancer. You're going to be seeing double in about 4 weeks, and after that, you're going to die. And what was happening is they were going to cut my face this way and then go in through here and try to, but my eyes and optics and everything were there. So they decided not to actually do surgery, and I had radiation and chemo and went through that whole process. But it was a very interesting process. I learned a lot about myself,
How strong you are.
Well, that, and then I learned empathy for other people who have cancer. There's challenges in life, until you've had those challenges, you don't recognize. It's like a back pain. If somebody has a back pain, they look healthy, but man, they're hurting, because I hurt my back one day.
Right, fibromyalgia. There's a lot of things that people hide.
I learned empathy, but no, I love riding a bicycle, and they just jumped on that.
Wow, and you got luck. I mean, you recovered.
Oh, yeah.
In 2 years.
Yeah.
And that was mostly from the radiation.
Yeah, well, after I got done, I'm always a guy that sets kind of seemingly impossible goals. So some of my buddies I ride with said, John, you're going to live through this. I said, I know I am. I got too much to do. I'll get through cancer. I got great doctors. But I want to do something when I get out. So as soon as I get back, I can start getting in shape again, So they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to hike and bike the Tahoe Rim Trail, Lake Tahoe.
That was your Mount Everest.
That was it. So as soon as I got kind of where I could take the tubes out of my body and everything, I started walking. And then after I started walking, I started riding my bike again, And I got back in shape real quick, and like 4 months, and then we went up there and we attacked the Tahoe Rim Trail. So I'm the number 969th person who has actually done the Tahoe Rim Trail.
Wow, that's great.
It was great.
Do you have any lingering effects, or are you completely
No, I'm fine.
in remission?
I've passed 10 years now. I overcame it, but I have a lot of empathy for people with cancer. And so if there's a bunch of cancer people over there in an audience, that's kind of where I gravitate to, because I understand what they went through.
Well, yeah, and you have that shared experience.
Yeah.
I mean, and are you able to be president? I found out that you were born in England.
My father worked for a gentleman named Francis Gary Powers, and he was with the U-2 program, and he got shot down over the Soviet Union during the Cold War. And so we were disavowed, the United States, we don't know who that airplane was at first, and they sent us over to Roswell, New Mexico, another secret base. And from there, we went over to Area 51. And so that's how our family got here to to Las Vegas.
So you actually immigrated.
Well, my dad was Air Force, United States Air Force.
Oh, so
yeah.
you're a military baby.
Yeah,
Okay,
so if you're born
that's
on
what I assumed when I
If
saw
you're
it.
born on military soil, you're an American.
Like John McCain wasn't
Yeah.
born in America, but he could have been president.
Yes, uh-huh.
Same thing. So you can be president.
Yes. But
Is that in the cards?
Not a bit. I just want to serve somewhere where I can really do service.
All right.
Too big a job.
So then your dad was stationed at Area 51 among other secret bases. So you, number one, were a military brat, but number two, I mean, I guess patriotic and life of service and stuff like that. Tell me a little bit about your dad.
Well, Nellis was the base that we were assigned to, but my father worked at Area 51, a very super secret job, worked...
right back when people didn't even know about Area 51.
Right, and so what we did, we still use Nellis Air Force Base. We go out there and get haircuts. We go to PX. My Boy Scout troop was out there.
Right,
and all that kind of
I know
stuff.
that was important too as
so
well.
we were a military family, and
right.
I just... I was too young to go in the Vietnam War because I was still a junior in high school when it ended. So I didn't really do any military service, but being
What year did you graduate high school?
1973, Rancho High School.
1973.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And then you were considering going and volunteering. I mean, but it was just a little late towards the end of the war.
I don't know that I was, but at 17 I met a beautiful young lady, my wife Marilyn. And it's the first girl I ever dated, and I just fell in love with her. And I'd never had a girlfriend before. I was just
right. So that was your
playing
thing.
basketball at the boys' club and the YMCA teams,
Cool.
And
I only asked, and I don't, only because I wanted to tell a story. My dad, he was older. My dad was like 31 years old in 1971. And he was watching the news reports of the kids, 18, 19, kids like you, your age, were dying in Vietnam. And while a lot of people were running from the draft, my dad, at 30 years old, volunteered to join because he wanted to help those kids over at Vietnam.
Yeah. Well, I signed up for it. You had, it's mandatory you sign up for it.
Right, because they had the draft and Secret Service is a requirement.
And needless to say, I got married the week I turned 19 years old. And I started my own life with my own wife, and so I didn't do any military service myself.
But then you met your wife when you were 17?
Yeah.
Were you high school sweethearts?
Different high school. She was from St. George, Utah. I was from North Las Vegas.
Right. But were you senior? Were you still in high school when you had met?
Junior. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I graduated when I was 18 or 17. So.
And then you got married at 19.
Yeah.
And 30 grandkids, 7 children later.
Yeah, and 1 great grandchild.
You have a great grandchild.
So we're in good shape.
Bless
we
you.
got a beautiful family.
And you're still riding your bike as a great grandpa.
I am.
Well, good for you. Good for you. And then, so again, let's talk about the Boy Scouts a little because I know you talk about that a lot. It's really transformed. I know people who are still part of the Boy Scouts and the Eagle Scouts and stuff like that. But it seems like that organization is shrinking. While it is great life skills. You want to tell us a little bit about your experience?
You learn a lot of values in a family, but when you join an organization, a church, or something that gives you another perspective of other values that people expect you to have. So I was a Cub Scout, and then I got into Webelos, and my mother was a den mother.
Right.
And then I got into Boy Scouts, and I became an Eagle Scout. My last year of scouting, I was about 16. I went to the National Jamboree in Farragut State Park, Idaho. I was a junior assistant scoutmaster for the whole area here, working with the adults.
So you were already with leadership,
Yeah,
some sort of leader, almost being like part of the student council at your high school. This is of the scouts.
And so then I got married. Then I started having my own children. I had boys. I thought, I want them to have the same system that I had and learn trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, on down the Scout Law, Scout Oath.
Right.
So I got them into scouting, and they all became Eagle Scouts. But I jumped into scouting myself and got on the executive board and board of directors and executive board. And eventually, many years later, I became a Silver Beaver recipient. So in your council, that is one of the highest positions that you can get because you're actually really working in the scouting program. You have your own career, but you're supporting the youth in the community. And a little while later in life, I just kept doing it, because I loved it so much. I became a National Outstanding Eagle Scout nationwide. I was honored for the scouting work that I've done in Southern Nevada.
Beautiful. And there's talk, for example, Ben Shapiro is a podcaster I like to listen to, and he, as we're starting to see what's going on with Disney in Florida and the CCSD and the problems in schools, and whether you're talking about restorative justice or CRT or the sexual grooming or whatever the case may be. They're talking a lot about, they don't want teachers to indoctrinate our kids. And obviously, I am against all this type of grooming type of situations, but I disagree with as a teacher, that's basically your job, is to brainwash kids. It's to give them a line of thinking, giving them a way of thinking. And I know I'm a teacher. I'm brainwashing my kids into believing in hard work, showing up every day, not going to the bathroom, holding it till the end of class. Like, I'm trying to instill these certain values in these kids. And I think it's really hard for a teacher not to, indoctrinate their students. But obviously, we want to be able to trust our teachers, So, like the Boy Scouts, it's almost an indoctrination. You got to be self-sufficient. You got to work hard. You got to,
I know what you're saying, but I think it's more of exposing them to other opportunities in life. I don't know that
we're using a different word.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to explain that we're trying to impart these things on our kids. And if you truly believe, America was built, say, on a racist, systematic racism to keep the white man on top, or the corporation or the elites or whatever, you can't totally stifle what you believe in. I believe in hard work, so I can't stifle that. I can't, pretend that I don't believe in hard work, and I think that that's the most important thing for the kids to learn.
No, you learn things like in scouting. There's a story about a young boy who helped a lady across the street. She's an older. You see examples of people giving and serving in their community that maybe you don't get in other organizations.
Right.
At the Girl Scouts, my mother was a Girl Scout leader, and two of my sisters, I only have two, but are Gold Star members of Girl Scouts. So
as well.
Our family was a family of raising your children and giving back to the community. Right. My mother served in the Peace Corps for 6 years in Sierra Leone, Africa, and loved it,
Right.
5 of my 7 children have went on missions for our church. They go out there into the world. Basically, they grow up out there. Basically, is what happens. It's not always about them, but it's service to someone else.
And as a man of great faith, though, how do you feel, for example, we've taken God out of schools since like the 1960s. And me personally, as a Christian, would love to see God in schools. It doesn't have to be a parochial school, but, we could have the 10 Commandments, right? But... what was my point? I'm sorry.
Well, but you mentioned God in schools. I saw a funny little thing. He said, there'll always be God in school as long as there's tests.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And God is everywhere. You can't take God out of schools literally, but they're trying to take it. But, is there a difference between taking God out of schools and taking sexual indoctrination out of schools? And where does that lead to, like, say, school choice? If you want your kids to learn about gender, 86 genders when they're in first grade, or if you want kids to learn about the 10 Commandments in first grade.
True.
As we become more polarized, doesn't that inflate the reasoning behind school choice?
In my era, they wanted to take God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. So we started seeing that years and years ago. I actually went 2 years to Catholic school. My parents thought that would be very, very good for me. And so there I did have a religious opportunity. I thought nothing wrong with that. It made it pleasant to be there.
Right.
So I have no problem with it. I think it's great that we have higher callings in life to support children and help
But
them.
do you believe that this leads to necessity of school choice? Because we have such different views on how to raise our children. Some people just want reading, writing, and arithmetic. Some people want, for lack of a better term, a woke curriculum. Or some people want a more parochial curriculum. Couldn't the government schools, for lack of a better term, provide that for people and provide school choice? Or do we have to privatize or charter this?
We have to do that. In North Las Vegas, my parents want educational choice. Every time you work at a charter school, every time we open up a school, it takes 500 children. There's 500 waiting to get in there. Our mothers in North Las Vegas are demanding, and we're accommodating that they get school choice. And so we've got more parochial schools, more private schools, more charter schools in North Las Vegas since I've been mayor than we've ever had in the history of the community. And we do that because it's the service that the parents want, and the children really enjoy having a little bit of discipline in their life. You go to these other schools right now, it's dangerous to them.
Well, and there's some stuff going on, it's not just North Las Vegas, it's all of CCSD, but whether you're talking about Rancho or Del Sol or you're talking about Legacy, there's been a lot of things going on Where do you fall in? Because obviously, CCSD, I don't know the percentages, but say 20% of CCSD schools are in North Las Vegas. So obviously CCSD is having problems that they need to address. Where do you fall in where you're not the mayor of CCSD or the mayor of Las Vegas and North Las Vegas or Mesquite or whatever the case may be? Where does your responsibility fall in to the schools that are in your jurisdiction?
There's two things I'll tell you. First off, I am responsible for anything that happens in North Las Vegas. People elect a mayor to make sure he's there to respond to their needs. So if something happens at the schools, then it's my responsibility to call over to the schools and say, hey, listen, do you need me to have more police protection over there? Do you need me to come over and speak to the kids? What can we do to help you in your situation? So we work very well with the Clark County School District staff. There's no complaints about that. It's a situation that they're under. So here's what's going on right now.
Well, before you move on, because I loved your answer. You're responsible. I don't care, what the situation. If it's in North Las Vegas, you're responsible. Well, that young lady was getting pounded in the head until the girl basically fell unconscious. She had a seizure on the way to the hospital. That was in your jurisdiction, and you said you want to step up. What did you do in that particular case?
What I officially cannot just storm the school and bring my officers in there.
Right.
We have to work with the school district police. We have to work with the school district itself. They know that we're serious about this. They know they're having to compete because we're bringing a lot more schools because of these kind of situations there. It puts them on an edge like we have got to get this under control or we're going to, one day we might take Clark County School District over and just make charter schools out of them,
Right.
So we have some more leadership. But the interesting thing I wanted to tell you, in North Las Vegas, when I say I'm responsible, I am. So when COVID first hit, nobody really knew what it was. And so for 2 months, everybody complied, put on the mask,
Right.
But then eventually we just got tired of this, over and over, this mask mandates, harder and harder. But what's happening...
I mean, with all due respect, I think it's more that we never received any data that the masks were helping. I truly believe the staunchest conservative, if you were seeing that, a mask was stemming the flow of contagion by 50%, we'd all just suck it up and wear a mask. You wouldn't have to make a mandate.
Yeah.
If we're going to protect ourselves, we're going to protect. But I think the feeling was that masks weren't changing the vectors of the virus.
But this is what I want to tell you. When the school shut down, that left all the children at home. So most families, if their husband and wife both work, they need both those incomes.
Which is increasing every year.
Yeah. So just say that one of our essential employees, just say a firefighter example, or a paramedic, okay? If he stayed home Monday and Tuesday to watch the children while his wife went to work, and on Wednesday and Thursday she stayed home and he went to work, what was happening, Johnny, is that we were basically not giving the services to our community.
Productivity.
If you were having a heart attack and we didn't have enough firefighters, and we never browned out one of our fire stations or police stations, but we had to figure out how do we solve this problem.
Right.
So there's a thing called a social contract. People give you tax money, you're to give them the services. So I've got to make sure that if that person's having a heart attack and that person's child is at home left alone, how do I solve that problem? So we started our own micro school academy in North Las Vegas. The essential employees could bring their children there. The senior centers were closed, the libraries were closed. That's where we used them. So they would drop off their children.
How come I never heard about this? Is beautiful.
Well, it is, but that's because you have to do the things you have to do to stay in business.
Right.
I mean, this is what it took for us.
Right.
So then they would come pick their children up and go home. And we were able to conserve the energy that we had in our essential employees out in the field where they belong.
We offered that service here at Infinity as well.
Yeah, so that's the kind of things. But I will tell you this, the school district has certain problems. And I'm not going to pick them to death. I'm not in charge of it. But I can tell you the situation is this. Our children do not go to the Clark County School District. And you say, well, yes, they do. It's called Clark County School District. In the Constitution, it says, that state Constitution, that we will give a minimum education, which means is you're not guaranteed Harvard, Yale, Columbia,
Right.
But whatever the jobs are in the area, you can work those jobs.
An adequate education.
Yes. So what's happening here is as you spend money, tax dollars go up to Carson City, the state capital. Then you have the legislature you elect, and they go up there and they talk about education, and they say, this is what we want to do. Then they send over as a bill to the governor. The governor has three options. I can sign that bill. I think it's smart. Number two is I don't like that bill. I'm not signing it. But after 5 days, it becomes law anyway, or I'm vetoing that bill. So the governor has control over the schools. He sends the money down.
Right, more so than the school board.
Right. But also, what the problem is, all that money, all those counties, even though it says Washoe County School District, Esmeralda County School District, it's really the Nevada plan. It's the Nevada School District. It's Steve Sisolack School District. He's responsible. He has a state board superintendent down here. He's supposed to push through what the legislature want to do. They have school board trustees down here. They're supposed to get
right, but by the time
plan.
you get to the trustees, it's I mean, they're basically being told what to do by Carson City and just voting to implement it somehow, some way.
They can come testify at the legislature too. There's nothing stopping anybody from doing that. But when it gets to that point, these state school board trustees need to do their job.
Right.
So I'm gonna make a point here. I don't think anybody really votes for school board trustees. I think they go down the ballot line and they hit boxes and they put names in there. But if your name's Enriquez, you vote for Torres. If you're Smith, you vote for Jones. You know, if there's a back east name that you represent,
right.
You know,
it ends in a vowel A.
Yeah.
There's another Italian.
So what happens is we just guess these people in. They're not prepared for these.
Well, that's what the Johnny Brew Show is here for. We're trying to get all the school board candidates on here because we want people to know. I feel like there's a lack of intelligence in government. I feel like if we had been able to talk to some of these people, like that one guy who thought that Guam was going to capsize because we had too many troops on the island. I mean, when you have such a lack of intelligence in these important roles, I mean, you know, I hate to do it, but like you hear Kamala Harris talking about the fight between Russia and Ukraine, and Russia's a big country and Ukraine's a little you know, don't talk to me like that. We're supposed to be educated Americans. Let's find out, you know, who it is that's representing us and find out how intelligent and capable they are. Because I think when you watch these school board meetings, you can see that some of these people they don't have the intellectual capability to do what they're being asked to do.
They spend too much time on the operations side of it. And I don't blame Mr. Jarr at all. He has a board that's just so unruly, he can't do anything with it. If we had maybe some elected officials, maybe some appointed officials, I think it would be a better board.
Right.
And it would stay true to the course that it's supposed to
and I somewhat agree with the whole Jara point is, you know, I used to, you know, CCSD was going downhill and I was like, oh, you know, screw Jara, you know what I mean? But the more I learn about it, I don't think we have any idea of what Jara really wants to do with it. He's constantly fighting with his bosses, the 7 trustees, and it's been 4 years of muck and mire. It hasn't been 4 years of innovation or creative solutions to these problems.
No, I think he's a talented man, and I think he's got a person underneath him that's exceptionally talented also. And I think taking them away and out of the trustees situation they're in right now, I think he'd be a very, very good superintendent.
Well, you know, we have an opportunity. We have Katie Williams is the only conservative, or I should say non-progressive on the school board. We have 3 elections coming up, so we could, if we were to get 3 conservatives, we would have a majority conservatives on the school. But obviously, there's 4 elections coming up in 2024. You went to Rancho High School.
I did.
What was that like?
It was a great school, wonderful school. I went to all the North Las Vegas schools.
How many high schools were there when you were going to high school?
In North Las Vegas, we had just Rancho.
Just Rancho was the only one in North Las Vegas.
Yeah, there was probably 12 schools.
Gotcha. Las Vegas, Western, and half dozen others.
Yeah, but we didn't want to go to those schools. We loved our school. You
right.
know? So Rancho was a great school. And after that, I just, I really couldn't wait to get out of school and get on with life. I was one of those kind of guys, I knew I wasn't average and ordinary, but I just didn't spend a lot of time doing the things a good student should do. If I got C's, I was satisfied.
Right,
you
right.
know?
And you were learning.
Yeah, but after I got out of school, I've always had this desire to one day I'd be my own boss, call my own shots, you know.
Right.
And,
but first you got a job at a casino.
Well, I was washing dishes at the Silver Nugget Hotel and a busboy.
You know, I find the most successful people started out as a dishwasher.
You
hear that a lot.
I even wash dishes now. I tell my wife, honey, don't wash the dishes. I'll do that for you.
You get a little. I like to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
You know, I used to own a landscaping business, and same thing. You know, you washing the dishes, me cutting the grass or blowing some leaves.
Yeah.
It's cathartic.
No, it is. And then after that, I was fortunate. One of my best friends in the world got me a job working for a plumbing company. And that's the only place I know where you can start at the top and work down. They handed me a shovel and said, start digging. And I started digging down, you know. But I realized the apprentice plumbers were making more than I was. The journeyman plumber were making more. The master plumber made more, and the owner did very well.
Right.
I said, I have found my home.
Right.
It's in construction.
Right. You didn't need a 5-year degree.
No, I didn't enter that world with any debt at all from
Right.
education, but I got a great education. I'm running the city of North Las Vegas. I will run the state with the same educational program that I got from Rancho High School and all the experiences I got in business. Those are far more important in these jobs than having a political science degree, I can tell
Right,
you.
and then look at your experience and look at where you are now. We're going to talk about you opened a bank, you opened a tile company, and it all started with washing dishes and finding a better job plumbing. You talk about welders, plumbers, truck drivers. I mean, these are great blue-collar American jobs, and you see with the supply crisis, you see with our, dwindling numbers, whether it's people applying for the police force or the military. What about the grunts of America that keep this country moving and are probably the most important part of the reason why we were the #1 country for so many years?
So I'll give you an interesting thing. Einstein, whenever you say Ben Franklin said, Einstein said, George Washington, the whole world, everybody was quiet because there's something going to happen here. Einstein went to Princeton University. He was talking. They were so excited to have him. And he said, faculty, teachers, deans, administration, watch your A and B students. They're going to come back and replace you and be the faculties of the future. These are bright people, he says. But I would exhort you to watch your C students. They'll come back and donate wings and dorms and gymnasiums,
Right.
So I really think the C students are the people who make this country really move forward.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of times they're more creative and they're not, I am probably I'm more of an A student. I know the math, but you talk about somebody, whether you're talking about a musician or an artist, they tend to be C students, but they got this creativity. And it goes, we were talking earlier about how you really start to make your mark on the world in your 50s, but between 13 and 27 is when you're the most creative. That's why we get these people, whether it's, all these people who passed away, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, they all died at 27. And that's when people's creativity, Van Gogh, anything, Beethoven, they made their masterpieces before they were 27 years old, and most of them were poor until...
Well, what happens to those, there's a little film in your brain, but you don't know what's there. When you get to your 30s and you've been hitting it real hard, then you start going, I want to get a motorcycle. I want to go to Hawaii. I want to take time and get a camper and go hunting and stuff like that. You start relaxing in your 30s because you went through some stuff, you've made a little bit of money, and you just kind of give up. Now, the great ones just keep motivated. They take their calendars, they mark off when they want to go on vacation, and they work like heck in between. They don't take off years at a time,
That's pretty interesting because they do have a saying that if you don't have a heart and you're under 30, you're a Republican. If you don't have a brain and you're over 30, right? Now, you said you want to keep that creative streak longer than 30. Is that a parallel to you holding off to more than 30 as a Democrat and then in your maturity becoming a Republican?
I never thought, I always was a Nevadan. My father worked in the military. We didn't really pay attention to politics. I know my mother loved John Kennedy because I'm 86% Irish,
Right.
But that's about it. And then
Well, John Kennedy would have switched to the Republican Party by now.
Probably. But what I do know is that we worked for the president. Wherever that president said we go, So when I just turned 19 years old, my wife and I were going to now we're grown-ups, and my wife said, we need to go down and get registered to vote. I said, okay, let's go do that. We hadn't voted.
Right.
It was 18 at the time,
Right.
And so you could vote. And so we went down, and this lady said, are you Republican or Democrat to me? I go, I don't know the difference. I just, high school kid, I don't know. And my wife tapped my little hand. She says, we're Republicans, John. I go, really? Same religion, we're going to be same politics. I go, well, why are we Republicans? And she said, because we don't like to pay taxes. Now, my whole life, when I had a W-2, I just send money, they give me all my money back.
You felt like you were getting taxes.
I'm getting a savings account. That's how I thought about it. And so but we never got involved with the Republican Party. We just were families,
So then, you first signed up Republican.
Yeah, and at 37, probably 35 or something, the legislator in our area was rated an F. Now, I had been on the Parks and Planning Commission's Comprehensive Planning Board for the county.
Right, you started in politics in 1994.
Parking and Traffic Commission for the city. So I'd gotten some public service in me.
And you're still a Republican?
Yeah, and so I went to the Republican Party and I said, hey, this guy is a Democrat, and I think I could do better. At least I could get a seat. Like I told you, I got a seat in high school.
Right.
And they went through this thing, would you move to Henderson? Would you go here, there? And I said, no, I'm not going to move. My company's here. I'm close to my business. My kids like the school. And they said, well, John, we really don't want you. And I said, oh, wow. And they go, yeah, we've chosen somebody. But, if you'll move, we'll try to support you. And I said, well, why is that? And she goes, well, and then this one lady said to me, and there's a backup person, George Harris, who was there. He was a young kid at the time.
And this is your introduction to party politics.
Yeah. And so they said, there's enough white Mormon males in the Republican Party we don't want anymore. So basically, we're looking for females, nationalities, just different people.
More ethnic than a white male.
But it's not my fault. I never even knew any of those people.
Right.
But they basically put their finger in my chest and said, we don't like you anymore. I had never been discriminated before in my life.
That was your first taste.
So I went back to the shop, and the guys are taking their generators off the truck, taking their shovels, because, people jump the fence, steal stuff,
Right.
And I remember it was like a snapshot. I'm looking at those people, and I'm going, my employees, I go, I love those guys. Those guys hate me. They probably would hate my employees too. So therefore, I'm going to become that other party. And I went down and signed up as a Democrat.
So you spited the...
I didn't care about that. They're mean people.
Right. So, I don't like you. I'll join the other guys.
You don't like me. I'm gone.
Has nothing to do with taxes or abortion or gun rights.
No.
It was just a personal...
So, man, I'm out. So I joined the Democratic Party, and I won in the state assembly. I became chairman, vice chair of government
1996, you joined the assembly through 2004 while you were doing the water district, the parks and recreation department. I mean, you got quite the service resume.
I paid a little bit of time to understanding what our community is like, and I realized that whoever wasn't in that position wasn't doing a good job. So then I went up and took it up. Now, you got to remember one thing. The Democrats of today aren't the Democrats that were there in 97, you know? The three issues that we had right to life, the gun issue, NRA, and pretty much...
You're saying those were the Democrat platforms?
Yeah.
They were running on right to life? I don't think so.
No, we were. Pardon me. They were not for right to life. I missaid that. They were not. They want gun control.
Okay.
And they wanted more taxes. And maybe there was one or two little union issues, but it was just... They were all Nevadans. We went up there as Nevadans. We worked on these issues. We paid taxes from the South. So
how do you feel about them fighting for right for life when you're, a very faithful LDS member?
I didn't even know what they felt until I ran and won. Then I went up there and I figured out, when I said, well, guys, I'm not for any of this stuff. And they go, said, well, it's a big tent, John. You can sit over here, but most of us are over here,
Right.
But they had so many Democrats. They had 50% of the vote, whether I voted or not,
Right.
So I wasn't right to life. I wasn't against somebody having the opportunity to protect themselves. I wasn't for big taxes. I was a small business owner.
Right.
And I wasn't really a union contractor. I was a very small contractor. They didn't need me in the union.
So did you caucus, when you're in your early days in the assembly, are you caucusing with the Democrats?
Well, you just go in a room, you know what I mean? But you vote.
Democrats.
Yeah, but you vote your vote, you know. And so if I voted for what I thought was right, if I didn't think I
So were you oftentimes against the grain?
Yeah, but there was other people like me too. I wasn't the only person like that. The main thing we did...
They were more tolerant
there were
back then.
Some liberal people, but most of us were just Nevadans, But what we did do, most of the taxes going up to the general fund now were coming out of Southern Nevada. And we would go up there and we would fight. That's what the Democrats did. We joined the Democratic Party to bring those tax dollars back down south. So if you went up there as a Republican, they would hold all your bills. They were, they would control you. And our job was to make sure we returned funds to the north.
Because the Republicans in the 90s were the rurals and the Democrats were the cities, and the Democrats were trying to keep the money that they were generating.
Reno and everywhere else versus Clark County. I mean, they were good people. They just had different issues. But if we got one building at UNLV, UNR got two at the time. They were just smart about maneuvering the budgets and helping out, the North.
Like game theory.
Yeah. So anyway, then what happens is I just get going along. All of a sudden I start moving up. The Democrats spent $2 million unseating me out of my Senate seat.
When you were a Democratic senator.
I was a Democratic senator, they came after me because I was too conservative for them. So then I lost that race, which is fine because I'm not changing my
So you got
values for politics.
primaried.
Yeah.
So you were a Democratic senator, and this is like 2012 or
Yeah, no,
2016?
2012.
2012. And you're a Democratic senator, and the Democratic Party ran somebody against you in the primary
Yeah.
as an incumbent and you got primaried out by a Democrat.
I did because I was too conservative for him, and I wasn't willing to change my values for any party. But they had swung so far to the left by then, you know.
Right. So from 1998 to 2012, those 14 years is when the transformation took place.
So then North Las Vegas was going under, and I said, well, that's a nonpartisan race. I didn't care if it was Republican, Democrat. It was my hometown. I'm not going to let it fail. So anyway, I jumped in there, and then so I'm hanging out, doing a good job, trying to fix my community, represent my constituents. And then the Democratic Party, the state party elected 4 socialist Democrats to be the leaders of the Democratic Party in Nevada.
What year was this?
A year ago.
Oh, recently, okay.
So I'd heard about socialism coming across this country. I just didn't think it would land so quickly in Nevada. You know,
Right.
we were living now in Bernie's world, you know,
Right.
what was happening. And so I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. So somebody heard that I was going to change parties. They knew somebody, and pretty soon Fox 5 called me up, national, TV shows, and said, we hear you're leaving the Democratic Party. I go, yes, I am. I'm done with this. This socialism is happening now
Right.
in America.
Do we have the next video? Not that one, but the other one? Here, let's take a look at what the coverage was like at the time. This is it Fox or CBS? CBS announcing that your party has changed. Play tape.
A local mayor changing political parties after claiming there is a socialist takeover of the Democratic Party. North Las Vegas Mayor John Lee made that big announcement on national television this morning and now hopes Nevada and Nevadans will also make the switch as well. Christian Cazares caught up with the mayor today, and he said the decision was really long overdue.
That's right, Brian. Well, Mayor John Lee tells me the Democratic Party is a different kind of party than what he remembers. He said it's time for new leadership, a new vision, which he hopes to be a part of. Now, Lee made the announcement on national television today where he called out the state Democratic Party as being broken and said it has been taken over by card-carrying socialists who must be defeated. Many of the newly elected state party officials are affiliated with the Democratic Socialists of America, or DSA. The new message is also reflective on his website, where he's asking Nevada to make the switch to people over establishment and rights over rhetoric. As a Republican, he wants to work for the principles our nation was founded on, like smaller government, lower taxes, and free speech, among others. An effort that could keep him going after his term ends next year.
My plans right now, I have some big things happening in North Las Vegas right now. And to complete that project right now that I'm working on and fixing and making North Las Vegas the strongest the strongest city in the state is my concern right now. Yes, I've been talked to, and it's been explained to me how important it would be, but I do have to finish my job.
What did you say?
Can I add to that a little?
Yeah, please go right ahead.
So the national Fox 5 and friends and that called me up and said, "Hey, we hear you're leaving," and I said, "Of course I'm leaving. What do you want to know? I've already done some these little TV things, And they
Right.
go, would you come on national TV? And I said, well, yeah, but what's the deal? And they go, you're the first elected official that's actually said that they're leaving the party because of what's happening.
That's crazy.
So
I find that unbelievable.
Yeah, so if you think I'm scared of Democrats, if you think I'm scared of people who want to try to say things
Right.
about me and stuff, I'm way above that,
Yeah, but on the other token, I mean, again, I've met you a couple times. I've obviously done some research. I really like a lot of your resume, and you're a great guy, very faith-based, God-fearing man. But the biggest problem that Republican voters have for you in this particular primary is that you just switched parties. Now, back in the day, especially for me personally, before I was knee-deep in the politics, I used to look at candidates. I didn't vote just straight Republican. I would think about it. I tended to vote Republican when I didn't know anything about the candidates. But, I believe that 10 years ago, I would have respected you more for being an individual and being, able to think for yourself and this, that, the other thing. And we're all Americans and not the party. Let's vote for the individual. But now it's 2022. And we're like, a lot of the Republicans are saying we want a constitutionalist, super like just
Okay.
by the book, and they don't trust you. They don't trust that somebody who used to be a Democrat could change to a Republican. And some people say, you know, oh, there's a red wave coming. You're taking advantage of a red wave. And while my research on you and learning about you, I am believing what you're saying. But what do you say to the people who, you know, they just can't get over the fact that you were a Democrat a year and a half, 2 years ago?
I was a nonpartisan in that race. You know what I mean? As the mayor, you're nonpartisan. All I can say is, look at my bio, look what I do, try to figure out, you know, what I stand for. I can tell you right now, a great Reno Congresswoman, Barbara Bokanovich, used to be a Democrat. Randolph Townsend was a Democrat. Ronald Reagan was a Democrat. Trump was a Democrat. My point is this: don't pinpoint people. Look at their values. Look at what they stand for. I wasn't going to run for governor until I started talking to some of the Republicans who were running for governor. And I talked to them, and by the time I got done talking to them, I go, I wouldn't vote for any of these guys. They have no experience. They've never signed a check. They've never been they don't know how to open a session. They don't know how to govern.
Right.
And so you can get anybody with an R behind their name, and you're going to get stuck with somebody that has no experience in this race right now that's going on. So when it comes to me, you get what you see is what you get. I'm going to work very hard. I'm going to do the same thing I did in North Las Vegas. I'm pro-business, pro-God, pro-gun, pro-life, Eagle Scout, you know.
Okay, now and those
things,
are very
you know.
conservative Republican
So
views.
If I would have changed that a year ago, that would have been an issue. But if that's your whole life, how you live your life,
Right.
that has value.
But if you're a centrist and a former Democrat, you must have some agreements with the Democratic Party. What would they be?
I'm for Nevada. I want to make sure Nevada wins. I want to make sure our children get a better education. I want to make sure that people have the same opportunity in life that I had. I'm not running over to Donald Trump saying, please endorse me. I need your endorsement to get elected. I'm going to say, here's who I am. This is what I'm doing. If you like the direction the state's going, stay with Sisolack. If one of these other guys, and they throw out red meat and you're excited about it, vote for them. But if you're looking for somebody who's got some experience, if you're looking for somebody who understands how to win and will fight for your values, I mean, how can you guys tell me that, oh, you're a Democrat? Stupid John McCain and idiot Romney? You've got to be kidding me. Those are your people, you know?
Right.
If you won't allow more people to come into this party and bring their values here, then why would you even say we need to build the party anymore? You've got your group of fans. You keep them.
Why not run as an independent?
Well, there's no value in being independent.
Well, I mean, not for nothing, but I just feel like sometimes the Republicans are a little short-sighted, and they're always just trying to play catch-up. If I had the wherewithal, the foresight, and
I like the platform of the
position.
Republican Party.
Right. But
It's
hear
been
me
my
out.
platform.
I mean, if you're going to do some game theory, because I believe Republicans too often are just trying to do the right thing and do it the right way, while the Democrats are looking at 2050, 2030, we're going to have gasless or 50 miles per hour, yada, yada, yada. If I had the wherewithal and I was in a position of power and you came to me and said, hey, I'm thinking of joining the Republican Party, I've got a great resume, I hope you guys will welcome me with open arms, I would have recommended, listen, John, why don't you run as an independent, keep your Democrat Party label, run for governor, you'll steal votes from Sisolack, we'll get a Republican in, and we'll reward you down the line with the governor run or something like that. I mean, that would get rid of Sisolack.
I am not going to give a decoy. I'm going to tell you
You're not a
exactly what I
gamesman.
am. I'm just going to do what I do. I don't care, you know, to play the political game.
Right.
I just know where Nevada's going to be in the next 4 years, and if you don't like it, change it.
And I respect that, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes we lose to the Democrats because they are playing the game.
Well, here's the difference. So you don't, this is interesting. You don't understand the Democrats. You think you know it because they're all like this. There are so many Democrats that are so much like the Republicans in our party. They're wonderful people.
They're
they
not
don't believe
greasy
in all
wheels.
that bull crap, you know, anything like that. But
they're not making the news.
no, but they're good people, and there's Republicans that aren't good. There's bad Democrats. There's but it's the people that really matter that make this state. This is not a big state. This is a big state in land, Johnny.
Right.
But it's only 3.2 million people. This is as big as Orange County.
Right.
If you don't think I can't run Orange County with my experience, then you're making a mistake. But I will tell you that you have to stand for something, and when something is wrong, you have to stand against it, and you have to out it, and then you have to fight it.
And then the last question about this is, what does it look like? You've talked about proudly voting for Trump in 2016 and 2020.
I'll go better than that. I only voted for Trump, and I only voted for George Bush. I didn't vote for McCain. I didn't vote for Obama. I didn't vote for Mitt Romney. I can't waste my vote on losers.
So did you abstain from voting on the years?
I just abstained, just went right onto the next level.
But then my question was, in 2016 and 2020, as a registered Democrat, did you vote in the Democrat primaries for Hillary or Bernie or one of them?
No, I can't stand those people. Let me tell you a story about that. So Obama would come to town. I guess he liked Las Vegas a lot,
Right.
And they say, hey, Obama's come down. You want to come see him? We got tickets.
Right, because you're the Democratic.
And I'm out of town that week, And then the next time he goes, hey, we got tickets for you. You want to go? Oh, I'm out of town.
Everybody wants a picture with Obama.
Pretty soon, they start calling me up, say, we recognize you're the only guy that's not coming out there.
Ever.
And we're going to have you on the tarmac shaking the president's hands when he comes down the plane, the jetway, whatever it is. And
Sounds like Obama wanted a picture with you more than you wanted one with him.
I don't give a crap about Obama. and so I said, oh, when is that? Oh, it's that day. I'm out of town again. They were so mad at me. I don't care about being the best friend of the president. I care about doing the job I'm doing. I understand that you have to have some sort of clout with the party to be elected to a lot of things, but not for the mayor of North Las Vegas, not for a state senator.
Well,
but now that
governor.
you're the governor, you have to represent your state. But also, if you are in the party, you need to be a leader in the party at this level.
And then I know you talk about, whether caucusing, you're a guy in the room, you're not necessarily a rah-rah guy, and you talk about the party politics, and you've attended meetings, and you're seen, but you're not really the chairman of the
I never went to a state party thing. I never spoke at anything.
Since your, I've met you a couple of times at a couple Republican functions. Since your transition, how's your relationship with people like, say, Jesse Law from the Clark County Republican Party or Michael McDonald from the Nevada GOP?
I think they're great. I think they're doing the best job they can herding cats. I really, really mean it. This is interesting.
Have they been supportive of you?
Yeah, we're getting along great. Great. I've known Jesse for years. He worked on all my campaigns.
Right, I heard about that as well. When you were a Democrat and he was a Libertarian Republican, he was helping you out, and people said, Jesse, what are you doing? And I heard that his reply was, hey, John Lee is a good guy with good values.
Yeah.
And that was before we were so polarized.
No, I know. And even when I ran for the Senate, I had a lot of LDS friends, and they're all supporting me. And Mitt Romney's going, why are you guys supporting this Democrat? He's not a Democrat. He's one of us. He's John. He's going to do what he thinks is right. But here's the difference between a lot of Republicans think they understand Democrats. They have no idea how these people are. Remember when Kavanaugh was going to get elected to the Supreme Court? And instead of, we would do Republicans, we go, well, we heard you did this. What about that? Have you thought about that? We're building a case,
Right.
We're going to be very gentle about it.
Logic-based.
The Democrats will go, oh my gosh, boom, up to 10 instead of saying when they go to 10, he raped a girl in college, They just start just tearing into you. And once you start falling or accepting, I need to set back a bit, and I need to appease some people with them, they got you.
Well, that started with Bork
ever,
and then Clarence
you
Thomas.
You can never, ever work with these people. They just take and take and take. And if I tell them I'm a governor, if you bring that to me, I'm going to veto it. So waste your dang time. I don't care. I'm going to veto it. They know I'm going to veto it. I mean, I don't negotiate on the things that are important to me.
Well, hopefully we won't have a supermajority Democrats in the Nevada Assembly this coming election. What was I going to say? The coronavirus response. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because this is where the proof comes in the pudding. You could tell us you voted for Trump when meanwhile you're voting for Obama. But as a Democrat, North Las Vegas mayor, what was different about your response to the coronavirus pandemic from your typical Democrat, which would be able to show Republicans that you had these big business, you had business values, you had freedom values? I mean, this is the proof is in the pudding with your coronavirus response. What did you do to keep people free, to keep businesses open to the best of your ability, to minimize the infringes on our liberties?
Okay, first off, I didn't get the shot. I got the virus. I didn't get it as bad as a lot of people got. I was just exhausted.
When did you get it? In the beginning, in the middle, recently?
3/4 of the way, probably.
Gotcha. So 2021, late 21.
Like that. I'm very healthy, guy,
as you said, right?
So, but I do believe there were a lot of people who were getting it. They're dying. I mean, I admit that.
I'm not saying coronavirus isn't real by any means.
I thought it's your body. Heavenly Father gave you this body. You take care of it. You want to smoke, you want to drink. I'm not going to outlaw that stuff. You can do whatever you want to do.
We treat drunk drivers at the hospital. We could treat coronavirus patients that didn't get a vaccine.
That's a good point. But so I never got the shot. My wife didn't get the shot. Most of our kids didn't get the shot. One of our daughters got the shot because she's a nurse. And 2 days later, her heart started just going crazy. And she ran into the emergency room, and they said, well, the shot's doing it to you, and it'll be okay. And then about a week later, she ran in there again. It's beating like this. I mean, I think it was a very dangerous thing for people to take that shot.
If you don't mind me asking, did she have any menstrual problems?
Well, I don't know. She got 6 kids. You know what I mean?
Well, we know it was working before the shot, then.
I don't know about that. But in North Las Vegas, we never send anybody home. We sent our essential people home. We shut down. We still ran the business from people's homes and stuff like that. They gave us money. We're supposed to tell people to wear a mask. They hired these people, and you go out and knock on, hey, you guys don't have your mask on. I told them, if you ever ticket anybody, we're going to fire you, because you just tell them what the governor is saying, okay?
Really?
But you don't have
so
to.
you specifically instructed your people not to ever ticket, summons, penalize people.
We were there just to advise what the governor's mandate was about. Okay, that's all we were there
Educate.
for. Yeah, and so that's all we did. Then these people came back to me and says, well, it's working pretty well, but a lot of these people aren't hearing our story. So what if we just went and knocked on people's doors and said, hey, here's what we're trying to teach you. And I said, you will never step on a person's property.
God bless you.
Once you go and you knock on somebody's door and say, hey, you should be wearing your mask. A month later, somebody knocks on their door and says, I understand you guys have a gun. I'd like to see if it's clean and has a safety clip on it, or safety.
Right.
The third month, they come back to you and go, hey, what religion are you? Once you let people onto your property from the government, you are losing all of your values.
They were vaccinating people door to door in some other cities and states.
No, we didn't do that. But we appreciated people going to get the shot if they felt they needed it. We did everything we could to help them. We did over 100,000 people in North Las Vegas. We vaccinated them. And so it's their choice. Here you go. I hope you get well or don't get sick.
Well, that doesn't sound like the Democratic Party line.
No, I don't. You got to understand, I'm John Lee. I'm not the Democrat, that you guys would hope that you could say mean things about. I'm going to do the things that I think are right for our families.
Well, I mean, you've been in public service now, 1992, 30 years now. You've been serving.
About 24, but I always came back to my businesses. I was never full-time politician. I always came back. I did my public service, and then I come back. I was in a high-level nuclear waste committee, subcommittee. I was a Lake Tahoe chairman, oversight chairman. I had a lot of subcommittees to do. And being the chairman of government affairs, it was one of the 4 largest committees in the state of Nevada. So I've had a lot of experience.
And then the second thing that comes up most when people talk about why they wouldn't vote for you, which I want to give you an opportunity to explain, is this whole iPad kiddie porn story. Now, the more I hear about it,
let me just explain it.
Let's start out with what they were saying 6 years ago. And the reason why we have the Johnny Bruce Show is you could have as long as you want to tell us the whole story as opposed to a 30-second soundbite. But this is what the 30-second soundbite sounded like when the story first broke. Play tape.
Las Vegas Mayor John Lee is under fire tonight. New details are being released about possible child porn found on an iPad that he turned over to his own police force. Now the FBI is involved. Action News anchor Victoria Spilabati has more on this.
The word today from the mayor's office is that he is unavailable despite repeated attempts to get a hold of him through his office and his personal cell phone. We did, however, get our hands on this police report today, which details the incident with the mayor and his iPad. According to the police report, the mayor approached a North Las Vegas police detective back in October about what he needed to do to remove illegal pornography from his iPad. The mayor told police he had opened an email email sent to his iPad, which he believed contained child porn, and he didn't want the images on his device. According to the report, police agreed to help erase the device, but it was 11 days later when an officer downloaded the contents of that iPad for review. After their search, officers concluded there were no images of child porn from the email address the mayor provided. There was, however, an internet search of a free pornographic site, but it was unclear if any of the photos were children. Based on the fact that there were no illegal images actually stored on the iPad and that the email that supposedly sent the photos wasn't located, officers wiped the iPad clean and gave it back to the mayor and then closed the case. North Las Vegas police did turn the case over to the FBI, which is looking into the merits of the investigation to make sure that North Las Vegas police conducted their inquiry appropriately.
Give me this one.
Well, I mean, I'm going to give you the floor. When I hear this story, and as I continue to research it, I still feel the same way. I really feel like it could go one of two ways. Either you were like, uh-oh, can you fix this? And it was totally innocent. Or you have a secretary who sees what you got on your iPad and you're trying to cover your tracks because you're a huge pedophiliac.
Okay, so listen, this is interesting. We had we got our first iPad for the whole family. It says John Lee Family at Cox. Everybody could use this iPad.
Right.
Kids would get on, play, they pass it around. Somebody'd send me a little email, and I'd
Right. It was like a new toy.
So my wife, we're looking at it one day, and she looked at this and she goes, "Oh my gosh, what's this?" Because we used to hit when everybody would write us a letter, we'd hit it. We were excited.
Right.
And there was an image on there, and I looked at it, I go, "Ooh, what do we do with that?" We didn't know who that person was. We didn't know anything.
Right, and what was the image of?
It was a lady, a sexually clad lady.
9-year-old, 17-year-old, 30-year-old?
18 probably.
Right, all right.
It was a young
could have been a
Asian
16-year-old,
girl.
could have been
Yeah.
20, right. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I said, "Oh my gosh," because our kids are going to use this thing too, right?
Right.
So I said, "What do we do?" We didn't know what to do. And she says, "We need to take this to the police. We have 14 granddaughters. This is serious. We can this person's not supposed to be doing that, and it's one of those sex trafficking things. Okay, you're the mayor. See something, do something," is what we were told.
Right.
So I take this and my secretary never had control of this iPad by any means, So I took it to the police. I turned in. And I go, "Hey, there's something on here that we want to make sure if there's somebody bad here. Here's where they mailed this from me. Go
So
catch
this
them."
isn't you playing political protection. This is you just trying to do the right thing. Hey, this popped up. There's a family situation.
4 daughters and
not a
14
political
granddaughters.
situation.
Yeah. So I said, "Can you catch this person?" I just say, "By the way, press, I'm going to do this." And
So you didn't say, "Can you clean my iPad?"
No. So
you said, "Can you find out how this gets here?"
Bad guy.
Okay.
So anyway, they come back and say, we couldn't find it. I don't know where stuff goes out in the outer world out there.
Right.
But I'll bet everybody here has had something sent to their iPad that shouldn't have been on their iPad,
Right.
So anyway, he comes back, brings back, and says, "Hey, clean it up. I know your kids use this stuff." I think it took to the Apple store. They wiped it. I don't know how they do it, okay? But anyway.
So it was really a non-story.
No, this is a story. Let me tell you now. So I have a police chief who is a horrible police chief. And he's going. I mean, he's causing so much problems in our city, with his leadership. And so he calls this press person up, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to be quitting here." And he goes, I'm going to give you something. Now, 2 weeks before that, he went to the finance department and our CFO and said, "Hey, I'm going to retire. I need you to sign this piece of paper because I'm retiring." We didn't know he was retiring. Right. And he says, "You need to backdate this." And he goes, "Well, why would I do that?" He goes, "This is going to cost me a whole bunch of money in taxes, vacation pay, sick pay, and all that kind of crap." And our CFO says, "We're not doing that. We can't do that. Did you talk to anybody here? I'll go talk to anybody, see if I can help you." "I didn't talk to anybody, but you'll do it for me. You've done it for other people." He says, "We're not doing that. This is a whole new mayor."
Right, the sheriff was telling his underling to backdate it.
So he says, "Well, you do what you got to do, and I'll do what I got to do." So then he takes his last day there. He talks to this press person. He gives her this report. Can you imagine?
And you had a history with this sheriff of not getting along?
He wasn't a sheriff. He was a police chief.
Police chief.
Yeah, everybody.
Right.
So anyway, so he gives it to this lady. Says, "Don't do anything until tomorrow after 5 o'clock when I retire." Can you imagine somebody taking your records and giving it to the press? And about to say, I turned in the iPad.
Right.
We couldn't figure out who did it. We tried to figure it out. We did our best as parents and as citizens of this community. And if anybody wants to use this as an example of what you shouldn't do, Don't turn in people who are trying to do good things. But if you want to go after people, be mean and ugly, go ahead, because I'm not responding to it. And I'm also telling you right now, I reject that. And I'm also telling you right now, I would have done the same thing over again.
But you could have probably deleted it and just never brought it up again, and probably nobody ever would have known nothing, because again, it turned out to be a nothing burger. Like there was, it was just some
this
spam.
Is better than that. So this one guy calls me up. He goes, John, he knows me. He goes, John, he says, can I come over to your house? I go, yeah. He wants to talk about the SIPAD thing, right? And he comes over to my house and he says, can I look at your computer? So he goes on my wife's computer. He's a friend, and he's really good at computers.
Right.
And he says, can I see your phone? Grabs my phone, looks at it, and he goes, you don't have any pornography on any of these things. I go, I know, I don't do pornography. I've never went to a girl place. I never got a magazine. I never did anything. And he goes, well, I can tell you don't do it, because these pedophiles have stuff on every one of their devices.
So if you do go to a site, they plant stuff in your device.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, there are evil people out there, and they use these tools to scare people and hold something over their head. I don't care. I'll do the best that I can. Do your evil. I'm going to do the best I can. And
even a lot of good people in America have a little bit of porn on their electric devices.
I don't know. None of my friends do that I know of.
But you never, I'm just saying, like I have some friends they've never taken a puff of a cigarette in their whole life,
Yeah.
You have never visited a porn site or a porn.
I got married when I was 19 years old. I didn't have money to buy a Playboy magazine. I never went to a girly bar. I love my wife.
So you being blamed with porn is the furthest thing from who John Lee is.
Yeah. My mother and father, we were good Christian people, So I don't care when people say evil. I just try to fight and just keep moving forward.
Right.
You're not going to shame me, is what I'm saying.
Right. And the thing is, I've seen probably 10 newscasts covering this story, trying to get to the bottom of what really happened, and they're all the same thing, and they've never had more than a minute to really explain what actually happened. We have a video. I'm waiting.
We have a video of that officer. I never met him that did that. He gave a statement and said that I did everything right, and he wished more people did that kind of stuff.
Right, because again, you could have
catch bad people.
You could have just swept it under the rug and said, guys, don't ever tell anybody about this.
Yeah.
But you didn't. All right. Well, I want to talk about just hit some of the other platforms that you're talking about. First of all, like immigration. I mean, Vegas is close to the border. We have a very large Hispanic community, and there's becoming a big delineation between the American citizen Hispanic community and the illegal Hispanic community. And while, again, you're a Christian man, I mean, I'm a Christian man, we love everybody, and anybody who needs help, we're willing to help. But at the same time, we got to help ourselves before we can help anybody else. There's people who are trying to become citizens of this country and come to this country the right way. We have airplane things where you got to get corona vaccinated and wear a mask and this, but people are pouring over the border. They could even be terrorists, and we're not even vetting them. But meanwhile, somebody wants to visit our country legally and they have to jump through all these hoops. What is it about immigration that you would like to do? And it's a weird thing because we're not necessarily a border state, but we are close.
That's a good point.
And we have a very large Hispanic community. And you're the governor, you're not the president. So what is it about immigration that you would like to improve upon?
In North Las Vegas, I talk to our officers all the time. I said, has anybody seen a bus come to North Las Vegas and drop off 60 people out? We've never seen it in North Las Vegas. It might be happening in Las Vegas, but I have no knowledge of it.
Right, like the North Las Vegas airport over there by Cheyenne High School.
We've never seen that happen here yet in our community. But I can tell you we're actively trying to figure out if it is happening. I believe every person that usually comes to this earth wants the same freedoms that we have. And I understand why they're coming. But we can't just have an open, porous border. We have to know who's coming. I would love to give work visas out to people. We need good employees here. Work here 10 years and you prove that you didn't cause any problem. Let's figure out a way that we can inseminate you into our society.
Right. If that's what your end goal is. Another end goal could be, let me work for 6 months and go back home.
And if you have a farm in Mexico and you come here in the off season, you work, and then you go back to the planting season, I get that. I like that idea.
I like that too.
So I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem with people who come here and do evil. And because of that evil, it makes everybody a suspect. And so as governor...
The saints pay the penance for the sinners.
Yeah. So as governor, I will continue to work to help figure out how we get that wall built. If I have to send some of our
resources,
our people down there,
we'll chip in.
I'll do it, yeah. But we're a part of the solution. I just don't want to hide from it, but I definitely want to say that in our community, we could use good quality people here working if they would come in properly.
Do you believe that Las Vegas is a sanctuary city?
I believe it.
You do believe it?
I believe it because there's not enough emphasis on us not being a
And does that primarily come down from Governor Sisolack or from Sheriff Lombardo or maybe DA?
I think I'll leave the DA out of it because he always has to be responsive to things. I think we've got a great district attorney. I think it's Sisolack and it's Lombardo who are just kind of looking the other direction and letting this stuff happen.
And then you're pretty much, can you give me a little bit of inside baseball as far as a lot of Republicans like to assume certain things about the relationship between Sisolack and Lombardo. You have been, obviously, in this longer than Sisolack or Lombardo, as far as politics is concerned. From your observations, are they buddies? Are they cronies? Are they adversaries? How would you...
I think if you look at the facts, the fact is that Lombardo and Sisolack are very, very close friends, very good friends. And when Lombardo gave him $5,000 for his campaign, more than he ever gave anybody else, when he had fundraisers for him, when he was actually the only Republican put on the transition team when the governor goes up to Carson City, there's not a better, tighter bond than those relationships.
Those relationships.
Now, I think that Lombardo saw an opportunity, a political opportunity, and that friendship wasn't as valuable as him as his
that opportunity.
Career. Yeah. So I was at the shooting range one time. North Las Vegas and Metro are doing a joint shooting range, okay? And I'm sitting up there, and there's a tent. We're 6 foot apart, and you got masks on because the cameras are there and everything. And I look over, and here comes Sisolack. Of all the places in the whole state you could go, why would you be on Sunrise Mountain on a 20-acre piece of parcel with getting ready to put a shovel underground on a building, And I look over at Lombardo, I go, who invited that idiot? And I'm sorry I'm saying it, but that's just
right, but that was what happened.
And Lombardo looks over and looks at him and goes, oh my gosh. And he jumps up and goes over, gives him a big hug and loving him like they're French kissing.
Like Dad just showed up.
Yeah. And I'm going, well, I wasn't running for governor at the time. I'm just a mayor. I go, oh, I didn't think they were that close of friends,
Right, and right. You thought he might turn back to you and snicker and be like, yeah, let me say what's up to this idiot,
And I've asked people, where did the disconnect take place? What subject, what instance, what happened between those two? Nobody knows. All of a sudden.
I mean, I look at certain things like, for example, there's a race for sheriff with McMahill and, or I don't even know them well enough to say this. So but I don't want to even. I don't want to say what I was going to say because it's a lot of conjecture on my part. But say Sisolack and Lombardo were besties. And then Lombardo's able to win the Republican primary, and then it doesn't matter who wins. It's almost as if you had Hillary running against Jeb Bush. You know what I mean? It's two of the same.
I have people that are my friends, business guys, that say, John, you need to be governor. I'm going to vote for you. But I can't give you any money because I don't want Sisolack or I don't want Lombardo seeing, So
they're giving you $99?
No, and I go, what are you scared? No, don't give me any money. If you're chicken, I don't want your money. And I said, what are you scared about? He goes, well, John, this is the deal. If I get one of those two in there, then it's like I get the key to the back door of the governor's mansion. Right. I want to get people appointed to like the gaming control board, the gaming commission.
Right.
Then people come to me and I set up appointments for them to go see those people. I make a lot of money.
Right.
But John, I'm not sure you'd put me on there, because you're going to look at a lot of different people.
Right.
So it's.
So that's definitely cronyism going on.
So when I called Lombardo up, because I called all the Republican people up and I said, are you running? Because I wanted to support one, I'm
right.
Get out there.
Before you decided to run, you were trying to support
I was
someone.
to support. And I called Joe up, and Joe and I had never had a bad moment before then. I have my own police force. He's over there, But I said, Joe, I don't want to step on your toes, but I heard that you're going to run against Lombardo. I mean, you're going to run against Sisolack for
your
governor.
buddy.
I go, I didn't even know you were a Republican. I never heard about you before.
Right.
And I go, so I don't want to step on your toes. What are you doing? And he goes, well, I don't know what I'm doing, John. I'm waiting for my team to tell me what I should run for, which means there's Catherine Cortez Mastro, there's a congressperson, there's all these.
Right.
So basically, they're saying, Joe, if you run for this, your name recognition is so good, you can get this job.
And again, he's doing the game theory that I wish Republicans were doing more of. But you say I'm trying to do the right thing, and Joe Lombardo's gaming it. He's getting
he has a
team
campaign
together.
staff that get paid a lot of money to get people elected. I just think they gave Joe the wrong advice, and Joe took it, and now Joe's in the middle of it, and Joe's going to be the most unhappy person ever if he becomes a governor because he's not prepared for the job.
How so?
Because sheriffs come and go. I'll give you an example. When a sheriff gets elected, he goes in there, they put another stripe on him, another little star here,
right.
And he sits down. He's got a few good ideas on policing maybe, but he doesn't run the operations of hiring. He doesn't do any of the insurance. He knows nothing about
business,
there's a staff
economics.
in place.
Right.
You come in, staff stays there. You go out, staff stays there.
Really quick, we're running out of time, but I'm going to name some of the other candidates. You don't have to tell me if you're endorsing them, obviously. But what do you think about Joey Gilbert?
Let me just tell you this. I like all those guys, and I tell you why I like them. They all have one thing in common. They don't want Sisolack up there, and they don't want Lombardo up there. And I'm telling you right now that they are more pure than those two are. So I have nothing bad to say about those guys. They all offer something.
If you weren't in the race, is there a particular two or three that you would like?
One. Nope, because we're getting along good.
Is there one or two that you don't like?
I'm not even going to say that.
How about Lombardo?
I don't. Well, I've already said that.
All right, so Lombardo's the only one that's off the list.
I have no problem with it. Everybody brings a certain technique or value to the job.
Heller, Gilbert, Zilberberg.
I'm fine. I'm not going to do that.
And then you talk a lot about cancel culture, and that's one of the reasons you left the Democratic Party. What is it about cancel culture, and how can a governor fight against cancel culture?
I don't. If you want to get canceled out, follow along with the cancel culture people. I'm not going to do that. I don't do that. I'm not going to go and play the game of siding with someone because they start attacking someone, and you should attack them too, right? I'm not going to do that. Right. I don't do that.
Well, DeSantis put in a law. So I don't know the details, and forgive me if I'm not exact, but it's something like if somebody's running for office or if there's a public official and you take them off of Facebook or Twitter or something, you get a $100,000 fine because, if John Lee's running for governor and if we don't want you, we just, mute you in Nevada. Well, in Florida, they passed some sort of law. Well, if you mute a candidate, then you're going to get a $100,000 fine because you're not, we need to be able to have access to John Lee to find out if
it's true.
So, is there something like that you've had in mind, or have you brainstormed any ideas how you could protect the Nevada people?
No, it's federal. It'll all happen at the federal level. And so I'm just going out and being the best guy. I've got about 8 more weeks, and this primary election is over. I'm more focused on that 8 weeks than I'm worried about the cancel culture people.
Right. And then what about jobs? That's pretty much your wheelhouse.
We have created more jobs in North Las Vegas than anywhere else. My job is to diversify the economy of Southern Nevada, help strengthen the state budget.
And what have you done? I know, number one, there was a $150 million deficit.
Let me finish this right here. My job is to see that in North Las Vegas, our residents don't all work in gaming, tourism, and hospitality. I want, maybe she's at Caesar's Palace dealing cards, good tips. I want him manufacturing something over here, not working at the Treasure Island in engineering. An airplane hits a building, a pandemic comes, they both lose their job. The number 2 form of savings in America for retirement is equity in your home. I want the residents of North Las Vegas to have a great retirement, and I want to make sure I give them better jobs, better opportunities than what we have right now.
Well, you talk about, home equity being one of the best ways that people can retire. It sounds like anybody that got on the boat before the pandemic is all set for retirement, and anybody who hasn't bought a house is pretty much missed the boat.
No, there's going to be a bubble. It's going to happen.
BlackRock's going to liquidate everything they just bought?
It won't be that at all. It'll be government. It'll happen. Banks are going to respond. I'm just letting you know.
You're
I've been around. I've been in construction years. I've seen the ebbs and flows. There's going to be something that will change again, and we'll go back down and have some affordable housing again.
Because my biggest concern is when you have these investment firms buying entire neighborhoods, they're basically those houses are off the market for life. Because the investment firms aren't going to liquidate their physical holdings.
What other things happen, like Airbnbs? A lot of people buy an Airbnb home and they use it on the weekends. They rent it out. The rest of the week it's not being used.
Right. Especially in Vegas.
Yeah, those houses are being sucked up, like that too. So as much as you and your wife would love to have a nice home in that neighborhood, We got too many Airbnbs that are being sucked up.
Well,
So
and Canada just passed a law saying that they're not going to let any foreigners buy property for 2 years.
there's only 3% of the people in this country who own houses that aren't a resident of our country. You know, so I'm just saying I've been.
But I heard the
around long enough.
opposite is true regarding our farmlands in China.
Well, I don't know.
Right. It's something I'm concerned with because, free market capitalism and a freedom of, our Constitution and Bill of Rights, again, just like they said back, when they were writing it, it's for a good people. It's for a God-fearing people. So if we lose our morals, we're not going to be able to have the Bill of Rights. If we lose, if we sell everything to Chinese people, or Chinese communists,
Well, it's happening
we're
lithium
not
right
going
now.
to have capitalism.
Yeah, it's already happening. Lithium right now, they're passing a law in Congress that we can't mine lithium, and we're a huge state for that.
Yeah.
We got to buy it from China or
Right,
Russia.
why? Why would not we
No, I
not
don't
drill our
know.
own
And I
oil or
believe-
drill our own lithium?
I believe if our country is not strong, every other country will fall. We have to have our own energy. We have to have everything to strengthen the world. So
Well, with the exception of World Wars I and II, I believe that since the Civil War, or actually since World War II, these past 80 years are probably the most peaceful 80 years in
Yeah.
world history.
But you look at what's going on in the world right now. You look at South America and all the socialism that's happening there. You look what happened in Germany years ago. It's the inflation that tears these countries apart. We have got to take care of our country better.
Guns?
Well, I'm very pro Second Amendment. I actually, for 14 years, I had an A rating with the NRA.
Right.
I helped build that shooting range. I was up in the north end of the town. I went and got 3,000 acres from the federal government, $49 million from the Southern Public Lands Act. I built that range for 10 years. I was chairman of it.
Right.
I was actually called back to go to Washington, D.C. to the NRA Board of Directors meeting, and they made me National Elected Official of the Year.
I guess
for what I did.
As a Democrat.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah. But I just Nevada, and I've always
just
had an
John
A
Lee.
rating with the Nevada Right to Life. I do not believe killing babies should be allowed at all. I think we get a better foster care system or better ability to adopt children
And
in
an
this state
education
would be
system
better.
that's not maybe
Education.
pushing sex, but pushing abstinence.
You mentioned just a second ago about North Las Vegas. It was $156 million in debt, had a new $6 million hole in the budget. All the bond ratings were junk. I've got all the bond ratings up to A now. We're the most financially strengthened. We're the most strength of any city in this state right here. I was actually...
And as quickly as you could. How did you do that?
Well, that's what Cities and Counties magazine asked. They came out and interviewed me, and I told them, and this is the system, because Vallejo, San Bernardino, Stockton, California, those are still suffering. Detroit,
Right.
And so they made me, in the whole nation, cities and counties, they made me the elected official of the nation for what I was able to do for North Las Vegas. So I've got a pedigree. I've got experience.
I wish you would run CCSD. They got a big budget. We could really use to fix that budget.
Yeah, I think if we get a better governor, we'll have a better school district.
Your lips to
School
God's
system.
ears. And then, speaking of guns, you were just at a Vegas CCW forum, and it was held by this guy named Nephi Kaliki, who has been coming under nationwide scrutiny for making some off-color jokes. He was making racist jokes, but they were aimed at white people, aimed at black people, aimed at a whole bunch of people. If it was 20, 30 years ago, it'd be your typical comedian's jokes. Now in this day and age, it was found to be quite offensive by the mainstream media. He's had his problems with Joe Lombardo. You want to talk about your relationship with Nephi or Vegas CCW or your experience at the event?
I know him. I know you. I know
Right.
people. I took the class because it was $49. I always wanted to get a CCW, but I said, hey, I'm just going to take this,
Cool.
And so I went and took the class. I actually sat on the front row so I could make sure I could hear, I could listen, I could learn.
Right.
You
And
know,
I'm
I wanted
sure
to know.
Nephi appreciated having you there because your name lends credibility.
Yeah, and I don't have a handgun. I didn't know anything about it. I'm going to learn all I can because I want to be safe,
Right.
And so I'm sitting there, and he puts a couple things up on the screen. I'd never seen his show before,
Right.
And I hear all these people laughing. I'm going, I think that's not right. We're not living in that world right now.
Right,
and then
right,
10
right.
seconds later, it's gone, and nobody got up and left. I'm going, man,
I
was uncomfortable.
because it came and went,
Yeah.
and later it became a news story. But at the time, you thought maybe that's a little.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the news people call people up and they go, "We want to destroy this guy. He said something racist." I got a hold of him personally and said, you should never do that. That's very unacceptable. Those times are gone. We don't tell those kind of jokes anymore. You know, my mother and father didn't raise
But
me
you
to
did
be
that like
racist.
a man. You called Nephi.
Yeah,
You didn't do
I'm
that
not
on the
gonna-
news.
I'm
You
not going to woke and let's destroy this man's business. Let's destroy his reputation. Fix your problem. Bring your game up a little higher. You shouldn't be doing that stuff.
So you didn't hammer him in the press,
No,
but then you called him on the side and said, "Listen,
Yeah,
bro."
I said, that
like
was
a
very
man.
unacceptable. You shouldn't do that stuff. So now what they want to do is you go after and you tear into him too. I'm not doing that, everybody. If he doesn't want to be a good, successful businessman, he'll keep doing that stuff and he'll be out of business. You know.
And if he takes your advice, bygones are bygones.
Yeah.
He made maybe made a bad decision.
Yeah, but I will tell you this. I did get a lot of education there, and I did learn a lot. He's a very, very good teacher.
And that was the whole point of it. And I know he's had problems with Lombardo not issuing the CCW permits for classes he's given in the past. But just yesterday, everybody got approved, including yourself, I'm guessing?
I've already went down there and done the shooting thing, and I've already went to Metro and been fingerprinted. You know, I'm going through the system, and I'm happy with the system. I'm not trying to change the system. I'm just like everybody else.
Beautiful. All right. Well, I mean, that's about it. What I want to do is I want to give you a chance. I mean, you've told us everything there is about you, but why don't you give us a 60-second elevator pitch, look at the voters, explain to them why John Lee is the man to become governor of Nevada.
You know, I've been a little bit successful in my life, and I pretty much have three questions when I meet people or I'm going to do something with them. Do I like you? Do I trust you? How can you help my company? How can you help my city? How can you make me a better person? And so as I'm running for governor right now, I'd hope you'd use those on me. Do I like him? Has he been a good, honest guy? Does he have the values I have? Can I trust him? Well, look what he's done. He's actually done that stuff. And what can he do for me? That's the part you want to do. When you're electing a governor, you better get a governor who has a little bit of experience, a little bit of maturity, and is able to understand the job and actually do the job. Because doing the job is one thing, but you don't hire John Lee to know where he's going to be tomorrow and what he's going to do. You hire him, where's the state going to be 10 years from now? You're going to want a better state than it is right now. If we go 4 more years of Steve Sisolack or a Republican candidate without the right experience, we're going to be in worse shape than we are now. So I'm asking you right now to take a look at John Lee, to understand him. His job is to help you and your family and the state of Nevada in education and all the issues that we have now. Those are the things I'm wanting to help support you on, and I appreciate your vote if you'll give it to me. Thank you very much.
Well, beautiful. And, you guys know I try to, we'll be rooting like hell for any Republican candidate after the primary. We try not to endorse anybody, but I can tell you if it's coming down to jobs and macroeconomics in the state, I definitely think your resume speaks for itself.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you.
I really appreciate you coming down and the time you spent with us, and you're always welcome to come back.
Appreciate you, John.
All right, for John Lee, my name is John Brookhagen. You're watching the Johnny Brew Show, and we'll continue with our coverage of Red Wave 22. Please hit that subscribe button.